I've performed numerous funerals and memorial services, more than I can remember, and some I don't really want to remember. But it's here in this chapel that I attended my first ever memorial service. I think a lot of you remember it. It was Y.C. Lee's memorial service in the fall of 1987. He'll taught me many things about life, and grief was certainly one of them. I think you're familiar with these words, the translation of these words. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Whatever is true. These 4 lives were and are true. These 4 lives ended far too soon, and none of them ended in a way that any of us would have wished. But the length of our days is a poor measure of the mark that we, any of us, make in this life. Better measure is this, as the poet Philip Larkin said, that what will survive of us in the end is love. Because this is absolutely true, that each of our 4 classmates left behind people who loved them and love them to this day. Mothers and fathers, friends and spouses, and a child as well. People who still, when they wake up every day, remember them, and people who still dream about them at night. And this is true as well, that some of us in this room remember these 4 young men often. We remember the specifics of their lives. We remember the details of their lives, who they were, what they loved, where they were funny, where they were sad, where they were kind, where they were mean. For some of us here today, some of these faces and names, they're a very faint memory. Maybe a class we took with them, a hall that we lived on with them. Maybe the last time that we saw any of these faces was a quarter century ago on this campus. But whether it's a barest recollection, or whether it's an ingrained memory that will be with us for all the days that we will live, we're here right now, all of us. And that is true. And that is very good. And it matters that we're taking the time to remember them and remember our bond with them. Rob, I'm going to ask you to come up now. We're going to ring the chapel bell once for each of our classmates. Yi Cha Lee. Sean Caddick. Rory Holloway. And Christopher Demos. The Zen poet Basho wrote a long time ago, "The temple bell stops, but I still hear the sound coming out of the flowers." These lives have ended, but the meaning and the love of these lives have not ended. And so we're going to have more specific, from the heart, remembrances of each of our classmates. Something?
Well, when I was first asked to share words about YC during the 25th reading, I had a mixed feeling. For a moment I thought ghost of YC still haunted me. Reminded me he was best friend at the Hill, has been 25 years since we graduated. Our lives since graduation has been longer than YC's lifetime, 18 years. Then I recollected, checked back the dial, our yearbook for memory lane. First few pages it reads, in memory of Icha Lee. It was 5 years ago that Icha came to the hill, to a new country, a new culture, a new language. He braved the unknown surrounded with humor, optimism, determination, succeeding learning joy. And it was November 7th, 1987, that he died tragically, so unexpectedly. YC knew what he wanted, where he wanted, he was going in life. He knew how to work hard, how to play hard, making himself known as the hill in both academics and athletics. His friends laughed at his unique sense of humor, his infamous phrases like pile on, don't touch my hair, or dessert time. Now they will only be memories. Yet such precious memories they are. We will all remember how much YC meant to us, laugh at his jokes, admire his achievements, praise his courage and determination. And even though words are not enough, we'll look at this book, see his face, and feel in our hearts those memories, those invaluable memories. Then in his page, Icha Lee, YC Key, 2131 Locust Street, Philadelphia, PA, 1903, Varsity Football, Tiro Club President, Varsity President, Locust Club. This means war, YC. Yes, any questions, just one question. Those precious memories return. I remember when I first met him in September '83, when he was my first roommate in Marshall House, Dutch Village, at a shiny room in the second floor as a second home at the hill. It was my hall master as Mr. Kowalczyk. Much in common, he was a student abroad from Asia, father a medical doctor, much like myself. Images of much memories flash by. Foster in third form, middle school fourth, Mr. Long's wrestling in upper school in fifth, with Mr. Romero again roommate in Rolf, because best friends are not supposed to move together until senior year. Many would remember him at classrooms, football field, at his apartment at Locust Street. He was ever energetic, strong, sometimes wacky, but always generous, kind, probably a bit mature than many of us at that age. Long after graduation, early 2000, I had a chance to go to Taiwan to visit. I stopped by his parents' apartment, jotted my notes. Soon I was talking with his father, a famous pediatrician in Taiwan, over a phone, and his voice was trembling, likely because no one has remembered him outside his family for so long. Then his brother Elsie, class of '87, called me up as well. I remember being surprised because he had fluent American accent, which he wasn't. He was graduating at the Hill. Here's what Elsie sent me recently. Simo, it's great to hear from you. It would be great if you could say something in memory of YC. You guys were his best friends, and although we lost him early, I think those great memories are always with us like it was yesterday. I would just like to say, everyone, that we are very grateful that even though it has been 25 years since we lost YC, so many of you still continue to hold YC in your heart. Remembering all the good times we had with YC, his humor and the way he approached life, it really means a lot to us. You guys were his best friends, and the times at the Hill have built a bond between us so that will continue to last forever. There's no more sadness, but just thoughts of us happiness that we all had a chance to cross paths in our lives and a chance to know each other like brothers. I'm sure YC will appreciate it. Whatsoever seems true, your brother, Elsie Lee, class of '87. We're back here in Pottstown to meet our old friends, as it was yesterday, where we were together attending the Hill. It's a joyful occasion. Yes, we have mixed feelings about recalling sad memories as well. I wish our times could have lasted longer, but I cherish happy memories with our friends. What I recall after 25 years, once our happiness wore a simple slice of Sicilian pizza from Little Italy during our hall feed, watching 3 movies for price of 1 in Coventry Mall, passing the pop quiz at Mr. Pierre's algebra class, skipping breakfast but not getting marks because Cable Master didn't show up either. Getting excited when radio played Tears for Fears, U2, Genesis, or local Hawaiian Notes, even our tribal alumni, Huey Lewis, or Long Island teenager Debbie Gibson, now called 80s. Or simply walking down the streets of Philadelphia in our half weekends. We found joy when Mr. Watson gave us a senior holiday, victory over El Villette football field. These are just a few memories we cherish. We've shared with our friends, our good friend YC. And that's what friendship is about. Good memories. Personally, long ago, I remember I received much love from you, your consolations when YC passed away 25 years ago. In memory of YC, we remember we were once young, fearless, determined, fun, work hard, play harder, drink hard as a snack. Well, we will remember YC. He will be forever young in our heart. Our life will go on. Some say being 40 is only 12 o'clock of our lifetime. Unfortunately for our friend YC, that clock stopped at wee hour or maybe morning hours at 9 o'clock. But we remember how good our friends were. We miss you and we love you. We remember you. We remember how unspoiled we once were, how innocent, like our school motto was little, truth, honest, just pure, and good report. How wonderful our lives are, especially with our friends. And that's why we have reunited here today.
In the late spring of 1995, Sean, he packed his day pack and told his mom that he was going for a hike. And that was the last we had heard from Sean. Unfortunately, Sean did not win the battle with depression, and I'm thinking, make things even worse, people could not locate his body. He was in the woods, and it took several months until basically Hunter was out in the woods and found his body. So, it was a big shock, when I heard that. Sean, he was my best friend, at the Hill. And our friendship started way before the Hill. We were both local guys. We started playing ice hockey together when we were about 5 years old. And just really had some fantastic memories. But as with most people, after the Hill, our relationship faded a little bit. We kind of went our own different ways. He went to Villanova, I went to Penn State. We would keep in touch now and then. But when I heard, about Sean, it hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I went through the various stages of grief. I was angry. I was mad. I had a lot of resentment. I had sadness. I thought I could have helped him. And I wish he would have reached out to me. And so many things, that I had gone through. And as the time has passed, I've been able to kind of get over those feelings of anger, sadness, and abandonment. And I was able to think, there were just so many times over the last 25 years where I kind of wish I could have picked up the phone and given him a call. When the Hill went co-ed. He was a great guy to talk about. He was a big Red Wings fan. And although I always called them the dead things, and they stunk for so long. We've won about 3 Stanley Cups in the last 15 years or so. And I've always wanted to just pick them up, give them a call, and kind of razz each other about that. And then the way things ended for Sean, unfortunately, kind of left my mind a little cloudy. With what happened. So in talking to Ken said, the best thing to do is, think about some stories, think about some things that, some good times that we had. So it was really good. I really appreciated that. And I started thinking, just about all this stuff that we did together. Sean was a big hockey player. But we also, one summer, we worked together, and we worked at his dad's plant out it was in Stowe, and we had a great time. We basically were painters, and goofing around as 16, 17-year-old kids. After work, we pretty much jump in our cars and race each other to McDonald's, and try to then go to the gym, catch a movie. Just great things. We would go to a movie, we try to sneak into bars, and we got into some, and just a lot of kind of careless, reckless stuff that we did. And his laugh, I just always caught that from Sean. I can just remember that so well. his sense of adventure, and sometimes he was even a little thinking that he was like basically pulling things over on people. I remember when he was in sixth form, he had a girlfriend, and he decided one evening that he just had to go see his girlfriend. So Sean was going to be a commando guy, and he told us this elaborate story how he dressed up in black, basically. He went to her house, hid outside her house, and was able to basically see her through the window, and he was stealth, and no one ever knew it. I even remember he said, I had a glow-in-the-dark watch, and I kept that cover. I was so smooth. But I got to see her, and she doesn't even know I saw her. Well, then 2 days later, he admits, he said, my girlfriend called me last night. She said, what the heck were you doing outside? My parents are really concerned, and so, it's just a great memory with Sean. And those are the things that I'm trying to, that I've been able to look back on and think about that. Like, we would go to movies, and we would always try to steal the movie posters or whatever. And I got a couple, he got a couple, and there were always adventures of basically being chased down the street and stuff like that. But we got away, and we'd always laugh about it and talk about it. But he was a great guy. He just ran into some difficult times, and I do wish he would have picked up the phone, and reached out to any one of us. But Sean, he was a 5-year boy, which they don't have those anymore. And if you're not sure what a 5-year boy espouses, I'm sure you will be told and informed about that. He played football and he played ice hockey. He was the captain of our team in 1988, and that was actually Joe Lagore's first year here, which is a great time and a lot of fun. He was a big reason why I played hockey here. And basically, and to summarize, I don't know why Sean, did what he did. People, I've talked to his family, and we just don't know, why he did it. And I don't think we'll ever know. But I do know that when I look back, to Sean Catton that I knew, the kid at the Hill whose picture is represented here, I really have some great memories, and I'm really appreciative for that. And I just wish he was here. And just thanks for coming.
Reunion, the act of coming together again, catching up with the folks that we've fallen out of touch with. But sadly, several classmates are not here, and others have left us far too early. Back in 2007, Rory killed himself. He had a bipolar disorder and somehow was given an antidepressant that can increase suicidal behaviors. When I was asked to speak about the Rory Holloway I knew, I deferred. Then this talk came back to me, and I thought that Rory was really been amused at my discomfort. I could hear his voice calling me a dumbass. Hollowhead, reckless, fun, smart. For those that didn't know, tease and do pranks. He loved pushing boundaries and seeing reactions. He had a funny, high-pitched laugh, and he liked to laugh a lot, usually because he just made everybody else crack up with him or at him. Most of the stories I think of with Rory are definitely things we should not have been doing. A visual of him coming into my room dressed as a spelunker, asking me to go explore the steam tunnels. A prefect sending a kid across campus to get my autograph in the middle of the night on a timed run. But those are the thoughts that absolutely make me smile. But I also remember the scary. Running off to look at him as a senior during lunch when I heard he was going to hurt himself. I didn't understand what was happening then. I wonder if he did, but suddenly he was gone. I heard he was shipped off to a grandmother's. Fact? Fiction? I don't know, but it really didn't matter. There was no closure. I don't believe that he walked with us come graduation. Rory and I never talked about it, and we probably should have. Rory had a habit of showing up at the weirdest times. A car from Colorado over Labor Days at our summer house with a caved-in trunk. I was about to have the thing towed when Rory saunters in. He showed up at 3 in the morning, but then went and slept on the beach because he didn't want to wake anyone up. I don't know if the police shoot him off the beach or the sunrise woke him. As for the trunk, he got hit by a tractor trailer or something. I spoke to a couple of our classmates for recollections about Rory. Bernhard told me how he remembers with great envy when Rory got a motorcycle and drove across the country. That it made perfect sense with Rory's freewheeling nature. It's something that only a certain type of person could do. You had to be cool, good looks, great home, college acceptance, lots of friends. Bernie also told me that he thought that he could never pull it off, that this was a Rory thing. That some things can only be done by some people. When I think about Rory, that's a lot of what comes back. At the time, he was the guy that I wanted to be, doing some of the things that I only dared dream of. I think it was the summer of my senior year of college. I was spending the summer in Little Rock. Having never grown up there, the phone was never for me. Late one day I get a call and it's Rory driving across the country again. He was half an hour out. He came over and spent the night. When he next surfaced, this was 8 years later, he was a guest with his ex-wife at my wedding. That was Rory, sort of coming in and out of my life, with time gaps, but seemingly nothing had ever changed. I've got a 9-year-old son now, and as the parents know, Max everything to me. Rory's son Jordan was 7 when he died. He's now a teenager. I spoke with Rory's ex this morning, and Jordan's entering high school this fall. I wish Rory and I could talk about our kids' roles and who we are. As I went online to reread his obit so I could give this talk, and I came across the Rory Holloway Foundation. Jordan and Aaron are trying to help others with mental illness get access to the right medicines at affordable prices. They've won awards for their efforts. I gave to them last week and I encourage you to take a look. It's going to sound silly, but the creation of this foundation really made me feel good. That something positive maybe can be found in his death. Well, we're back at Hill. So what have I learned? Jordan misses his father. I miss my friend. Have the conversations, even the tough ones. Connect. Tell folks you love them that they're important. We're all part of each other, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful that we're here. I'm glad that we're all together again, even with those that aren't.
Chris Demos was not a happy-go-lucky guy, but he tried to make the best with what he had. I remember the last conversations we had at Hill when he found out, even after being waitlisted for a few months, he didn't get into Vanderbilt because I always had to go to that school. He's going to University of Miami instead. He said, well, that's a lot better place to be a marine biologist one day. He didn't become a marine biologist. edgy, quick-witted, sharp-minded, intolerant of hypocrisy and arrogance. He's hard on himself when he wasn't kind to others. He was hard on other people when he saw unkindness around him. He's one of the first people that I ever spoke to about meditation and Zen Buddhism, and although in our 17-year-old iterations of ourselves we had no idea what we were talking about, he planted a seed in me that has helped to form a significant part of who I am spiritually. Wasn't all serious with Chris. Remember one weekend down at YC's place, he and I tried to get into party after party at UPenn, and because he and I were both so decidedly uncool, we kept getting kicked out from one party to another, and just wound up being self-righteous about it with a whole bunch of sour grapes. I saw him only a couple times in a year after we graduated from the Hill. Until March 27, 2009, when I was absentmindedly checking my phone at Eli Paperboy Reed at the True Loves concert in Center City. And I didn't even recognize the address that it was sent from. And at first I didn't recognize the words. It went on and on and on and on. And about halfway through, I recognized what I was receiving was Christy Mose's suicide note. My wife and I left the concert. She's a journalist. We went over to her station. We spent the next 2 hours trying to track him down because when I messaged him back, he said he didn't want any contact. He was going to kill himself tonight. Eventually, we found contact information for him. And then, after talking with him on the phone, at first he was surprised. He didn't believe that he was worthy of being cared about or reached out to. Every time he praised me for my kindness was another opportunity to put himself down. But as we talked on the phone for about 4 hours, one important thing happened. He sobered up, and he started to tell a story. He started to talk about a tale that was, I wish I could speak it to you in another truth, but it was just sad. 2 decades of struggling with depression, a failed marriage, and he said, I can't promise you I'm not going to kill myself tonight. But we stayed on the phone long enough until I got that promise from him. My wife called to have some police show up at his door, make sure he was safe. And things seemed at least okay for them. Over the next few months, we talked regularly, as often as I could call him, I did. He promised that he would give medication the try. Until he just got tired of fighting. And then the phone call stopped coming. And he stopped reaching out. Over that time, I did learn some things about him, which is that although he did not become a marine biologist, one of the few things he really enjoyed in his life. He said it gave him an opportunity to get out of the pain in his head. He was working on old planes, fixing them up so they could fly again. He said it gave him an opportunity to feel that he was doing something worthwhile in his life. But as I said, the call stopped after a while. He didn't return messages. And of course, looking back now, I wonder what if, because sometimes, Chad, even when you answer the phone call, there's still a limit to what we can do. Got a call, an email from Rob Wally about a year and a half after Chris first reached out to me that he had died. I exchanged an email with his father, and I want to share what his father said to me, because really it was to all of us. Thank you very much for your kind email. Your friendship with Christopher and assistance in that time of crisis was greatly appreciated. During the crisis that you noted, I also visited Christopher and spent 3 days talking to him and lining up assistance in Jacksonville, North Carolina, when he was living. Christopher suffered for 20 years on and off with severe depression, starting in college. He had a happy few years, although in Alaska, and was married to a nice German lady before it ended. He was a thoughtful and kind person. Although I do not believe, his father continues, that he purposely killed himself at desk with probably a combination of psychotropic medications, of which there were a limitless number supplied by psychiatrists, and alcohol. I was devastated, and driving to North Carolina to pick up the pieces and clear out his residence was traumatic. I feel sometimes better now, but I'm still disturbed from time to time. While I appreciate the offers of letters of condolence from you and your classmates, I pass on my best regards to all of you from the Hill School. Again, thank you for your kind thoughts. I've seen over and over again as a pastor that the hardest death is of a child. And so after today, I'm going to reach out to Chris's father again, just to let him know, even if he doesn't want communication, that Chris is not forgotten. Chris has been spoken of and remembered. As I said, Chris did not become a marine biologist. And recently I saw, I think, the only movie that I've ever seen that features a marine biologist. Steve Zissou, Life Aquatic. I don't know if you saw it. It's this weird tale of shark revenge and grief. And at one point, the main character says about the shark that killed his best friend, "I hope he remembers me." And you can tell he's not talking about the shark. He's talking about how much he misses his best friend. And I do miss Chris. He was my friend. And of the many fine gifts that Hill gave me, he was among the best. I'm going to ask, as we start to bring this memorial service to a close, that we unite our hearts in a time of prayer today. God of each of our hearts, uniting all life into one common flow and one common destiny. Our prayer for these 4 young men, our friends, that now they are in a place of no more loss, held by the larger being in which there is just peace and reunion with the source of life. We pray perhaps even more deeply for those who love them, that they would be comforted and that time would ease their grief, although that grief will never go away. That their grief might be eased so the loving memories, the fond memories, the happy memories, the memories that bring laughter and tears, that these memories will be right at the forefront of their mind and the top of their heart. And we pray as well for us, those of us gathered, that we will be inspired and rededicated after hearing these stories today, to be the kind of people who pick up the phone, who are present enough in each other's lives to reach out and to be reaching, knowing that whatever the last 25 years from the Hill has brought us probably is some mixture of happiness and tragedy, joy and heartache. May we rededicate our lives to opening to each other once again and reminding ourselves of the ties that bind us. Amen. Something that Chad mentioned to me when we were talking and preparing. I just prayed about it, but I want to reiterate it. Remember to, all of us, myself included, to be the kind of people who can be there for each other. Remember that it always takes 2 sets of hands to create a lifeline. One sometimes in desperation to throw it, and the other set of hands in safety and love to catch that other lifeline and receive it. May we all live in blessing.